I've been feeling so small. Watch the clock ticking off the wall. But tonight I'm letting it go. Spend my coin for sure. I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. I just wanna feel alive. It's just what I do when I'm out, so try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at those beautiful stars. I wanna drive a faster car. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me. Try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at those beautiful stars. I wanna take a trip to Mars. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me. I wanna drive a faster car. Lay my troubles to rest. Blow the smoke through my cigarette. City lights looking fine, and I know this is my time now. I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. I just
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, and good afternoon to all of us who are on the East Coast. My name is Monroe Howard, and I am your moderator for today. And I'd like to welcome you to the last Partnership for Children and Youth Summer Game Plan webinar series, which is aimed at providing information, resources, and inspiration to school and community-based educators around the state as we prepare for this upcoming summer and collectively work together to best serve young people. So the Partnership for Children and Youth has been invested in summer learning and statewide efforts to increase access for many years because we believe our ability to provide high quality, engaging summer experiences to young people is a core piece of the puzzle when it comes to achieving equity in our education system. Once again, my name is Monroe Howard. I'm excited to be your moderator. I'm actually a former school district level administrator running youth development programs in the Sacramento City Unified School District and have worked with many school districts up and down the state of California. I'm also a licensed therapist in the state of Maryland and Virginia, and I'm very excited about today's conversation around parent engagement because we know how vital it is that when we are meeting the needs of the whole child, we must address the needs of our families and our parents too. So I'm excited about today's conversation and our panelists that we have. There are many challenges to planning and operating summer programs this year, but there's also an exciting opportunity given increased public resources and the resilience that we have seen in our stakeholders in this work. When it comes to those increased public resources, there are a couple of key sources to lift up that we want to lift up here today. The California legislature and governor passed AB 86, which included a historic 4.6 billion for expanded and summer learning opportunities. Now, this money is intended to be used this summer throughout the next school year and into next summer, 2022. This is on top of the American Rescue Plan Act, which was round 3 federal education stimulus and provides significant additional resources for expanded and summer learning. We have just released a funding guide, that is PCY, to help you sort out these additional resources, and we'll be linking those in the chat. So make sure that while you're paying attention to the speakers, also pay some mind to that chat there too. Recent reports show that public school enrollment and attendance figures are trending down. And we know there's a number of potential causes for this downward trend, including the fact that virtual learning was not conducive for many of our learners. This summer affords us an opportunity to reassure families and re-engage them in the public schools with well-crafted programs. For many students and families, summer programming will be the most in-person schooling they may have had this entire year. So building trust and creating safe space is instrumental. It is vital. Summer is upon us. It's already June next week. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. And schools and community partners are focused on their efforts to finalize enrollment and to continue to get the word out to families. Summer attendance and outreach is always difficult, right? Especially among our underserved populations. And it is likely going to be even more challenging after a year of distance learning. This is why we are grateful to learn from our 3 guest speakers that bring a variety of experience and expertise across a wide range of districts and school communities. So we have a few goals here and some things that we want you to focus in on and hopefully walk away with today. Getting advice and gathering best practices for effectively communicating with and actively engaging parents from enrollment throughout the summer program and beyond. We want you to hear best practices and tips from marketing, enrolling students, and tracking attendance this summer. We also want you to learn ways schools can remove barriers for families and students to participate in those vital summer programs. And then finally, we want you to understand what infrastructure, staffing, and training is needed in order to create two-way communication between the summer programs and families and students to maximize attendance and impact. Now, in addition to the speakers you will be hearing from today, there are also several resources and reports on summer programming for younger learners that we can draw upon to develop programs. As you listen today, keep in mind some key lessons that those of us who've been running summer programs for our youngest learners have learned. Now, finally, a quick reminder that this is a webinar that is part of a series. If this is your first time here, we welcome you. We are so glad to have you today. And for all of those who are returning, we are equally as excited to have you today. But if this is your first time, know that, and if you find this content helpful, know that there's more, right? So please check out our previous webinars on summer learning research, staffing solutions, and serving high school students and early learners. We'll be asking questions as we go, as opposed to waiting until the end of the program. So get in that chat box. Send those questions through the chat box throughout the webinar, and we'll make sure that we include them, as many as we have time for today. All right, so once again, I want to welcome you, and let's not delay. We want to get started, and I want to introduce our first panelist for today, Patty Chavez, who is the Director of Policy. She's the Director of Policy for Parent Institute for Quality Education, PK, and works nationally to support PK's vision and build upon its history of helping parents become agents of change. Chavez leads statewide and national coordination and collaborative efforts to strengthen advocacy, build champions of influence, and enhance family engagement around issues that impact access to equitable educational opportunities for their children. With a strong foundation in strategic communications and more than 25 years of experience, Chavez also heads up PK's integrated communication campaigns to connect with and activate PK families around policy and advocacy. Chavez is a first generation and first in family to earn advanced degrees. She earned a bachelor's degree in journalism with an emphasis in public relations from San Diego State University and a master's degree in communication management from the University of Southern California. Today, we'd like to welcome Patty Chavez.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Monroe. That was such a nice entrance. Thank you. I'm very honored. Well, I'm honored to be invited here today to share what we've learned really through the years and a little bit of what we've done, and we hope that we can assist you and also partner along. And I know we have slides. I think Alexis is going to have our slides. So a little background on Parent Institute for Quality Education. We are a statewide national organization. In California, we are statewide with direct service, and we provide parent engagement. We partner with schools, traditionally on school campuses, to create strong parent teacher school partnerships. We work with immigrants, English learners, really families who are just struggling day in and day out, and maybe that connection with the school hasn't been working. So since 1987, we've partnered, and you can go to that next slide. We've partnered with schools on school campuses throughout California, and then in the United States, we partner with either state departments or school districts and work with them to kind of create our curriculum within their communities as well. We serve about 16 different languages, I think a little bit more now. Those numbers have grown this year, which is very exciting, but have really touched the lives of so many families. And I jumped on board a year ago. So right before the pandemic hit, next slide, please. We were working toward formally being involved in policy and advocacy. And then just like everyone, March 13th, 2020, that's a date we'll never forget, where we knew that our families weren't going to be those most disconnected. This is a slide that I actually used last summer as we were talking about our work, and it really hasn't changed. Really, that in March for us, and part with communication, was really wanting to learn where our families were. And it was really scary, right? And we had to pivot really quickly because our families either didn't have technology, didn't have broadband, didn't know how to use it, had language and cultural barriers, and maybe they don't work like we do, right? This technology wasn't adopted into their lives. They didn't know how to access some of the resources that now they couldn't go out. I mean, that's basically what it was. So there was a lot of fear during that time. What we did really quickly, and I kid you not, it was within 5 days of doing focus groups, was really to hear where our families were in order to get them through that transition to distance learning from that March 2020 through the summer. Next slide, please. What we learned in our phone calls in that short amount of time, that one, our families were afraid, right? And they're very humble. The trust was a big factor, that the reason we were calling them, they were picking up, is because of that one call and that one-on-one support to discuss holistic services and supports, that they felt safe to ask those questions that they were a little embarrassed to ask, like, I don't know what a Wi-Fi is, or I don't know what a hotspot is, but the school's sending it to me. We learned that connectivity, hardware, skills, and knowledge were all connected. It was all part of the adoption system. Then language, literacy, and culture were another big factor, that being able to speak to a family in their home language was very important. And that peer-to-peer connection, That sense of isolation was really great with our families. Next slide, please. So we started doing a little bit more surveys as we went along. This is one of our surveys for fall, but we did one in spring and one in fall. And one of the things that we learned in this is, one, our families had mobile phones. So for messaging, and I'm going to I'll share a little bit more of how we wanted to give you as many details as possible of all the little things we did. But one of the things we learned is, one, that our families had mobile phones that may not have understood what Wi-Fi is, and they may not know how to open a Chromebook, but they had a mobile phone because they were connecting with families in some way. Some families were sharing one mobile phone. So we were able to unlock that for them. Next slide, please. And for many of you, for all of us, we've seen a lot of data, and sometimes the data is just daunting, right? It's just like this doom and gloom. Really, what we saw was an opportunity to support our families. We knew that the internet connectivity was still an issue, and depending on some regions, they just didn't have it, right? So you can see here, there were families that still didn't have reliable internet. Next slide. There were some families as well that didn't have emails. So as we were talking to school districts and partnering with schools and other community partners, it's easy, right? We send one email to reach a multitude of people. Well, they didn't have emails. So that disconnect was really great. Next slide, please. During the pandemic as well, we learned that families weren't connecting to health services because they didn't know how. They didn't know how to do that by phone or internet. Next slide. And when we asked what the concerns were, it was everything. Next slide, please. And you could see in this next slide, it was across the board. And this was a survey in California, specifically about 1,300 families. You could see in all the regions, it was pretty significant. So as we started tailoring our messaging, we really realized that we had to touch each of these in some certain way. Next slide, please. So I wanted to provide you kind of an overview of really how we took this, because I know that as educators at schools, as community partners, as nonprofits, we all wear many hats. So I'm the director of policy, but then I switch my hat and I'm the communications director. And then I switch my hat and I'm also the web designer. And sometimes that's how it goes. So I think in terms of reaching our families, there was a few things that I really believe in as a communications practitioner for a lot of years. Monroe said 25 years, but it's really close to 30 years. We will say that there's a lot of bells and whistles out there, right, that we should use. We should use social media and Instagram and TikTok. Well, it really is about the individuals you want to reach. And for our families, those most vulnerable, it can be really overwhelming. Yeah, we knew that our parents had mobile phones, and we also learned that they were going on Facebook. I learned that we had 9 Facebook pages. I thought, okay, no, that's one of the things I'm going to kind of manage and bring together. But it turned out to be one of the best things to do, because each of our offices, each of our regions had a Facebook page with families that trusted the individuals in the office were going to that page. So we started using social media, sharing information from the school districts. We were sharing information from the partners. It really became to our families. Where school lunch is being held, what time, if they hadn't been able to get onto a website for the schools, and really at the beginning it was let's not give up, share. The other part we did was digital literacy training for families. That was important then and will continue to be important, as technology is a cornerstone for our families. Our families need to be connected to educate, stay in. We really looked at it from the inside out, and that connection that our team had with our families was essential, to be able to then to provide that information either by phone, or next if we were sending something that was minimal text, with graphics, but really connected to the rest of the communications. The parent cafes have come and gotten in different ways, really an opportunity as families onboarded onto technology. We were able to do quick Facebook, and I'll show you a little bit in the next slide, Facebook Lives or brown bags where we could easily just jump on a call. We invited teachers, we invited principals, we invited their friends, and that really brought that communication together. Again, personalized supports in a family's home language in a communication manner that they were comfortable with. Community partners, essential. We can't do it alone. So really partnering with our individuals, whether it's community leaders, community organizations, our schools, our legislative leaders in that area to help drive the information. And again, continue to learn and continue to move forward. Next slide. Just some visuals to show, and I'm happy to take questions too as they're coming along. Next slide. So this is kind of a quick overview. We really did a lot of different things. We onboarded more than 14,000, previous slide. We onboarded over 14,000 families onto Zoom Link. So that really created a community of support. Can we go back really quickly to the previous slide? So you could see we utilize the Facebook page, and for me, if you see the numbers, 3,700 viewers for us, we couldn't believe it. So as we started looking at what was working, it was really providing that face to the information. These are the individuals that they were, connected with in their community. They were seeing their friends, they were seeing partners, they were seeing PK staff, and it really gravitated to the information. Then we could go to next slide. Sorry, thank you, Alexis. One of the things we did also was listen to the learning. Our families didn't know technology. So we did these little cafes or these Facebook webinars to really talk about what does synchronous mean? What does asynchronous mean? And we connected with teachers in the community to help us along. Next slide. The phone calls, I think for us and for me, that was the most unique and important and crucial piece to this. I would say that our communication and our marketing strategy worked because of this, because that one-on-one connection that our staff had with families, and it is daunting. And this is an older slide, so I put a little plus sign in there. More than, I would say, almost 70,000 phone calls now to help families, to call and ask them how they're doing, how to connect them. If they didn't know how to go on the internet, do they have a phone? Is it connected to some kind of Wi-Fi? Send them one URL link that would take them to different information, get them on a virtual platform to create the community. Those were essential. Next slide. So you could see on this one, it's fun. There's just, you see families who did continue. This is the graduation. They did 9 weeks of parent engagement, and through this was continual information that was coming through various channels. So this was all fun. Next slide. The other thing, if possible, and if it can do, is technology for parents. So we're talking about parent engagement, and we talk about as supports for teachers and for students, and that's definitely needed. I would say parents are part of the solution, and we can't forget them either. Giving our parents their own technology, that ability for them themselves to connect to resources and information. As you could see, many of our families were either sharing phones or using their children's technology. So we've really been advocating for ways to help our families, especially those most at need, to have their own technology. Next slide. And again, as families are part of the solution, we really looked at it holistically as we were giving our messages. Who was in the home? Grandparents, single moms, aunties. friends helping friends. And during this time, and as we move into the reopening and for next year, our families have really endured a lot of trauma. They've lost loved ones. They've struggled economically. It's been a hardship for everyone, and it impacts our children as well. So as we're looking at the summer months, to think, okay, they need some help. Maybe they haven't connected with their schools, and maybe they're moving to a new school. So that one-on-one connection with the whole family will be important. Next slide. The resources, we did just launch an app, and I'm happy to share a little bit more about it if you like, but we launched an app because we learned our families were on Facebook, and we partnered with School Connects, and this app will send them personalized information in their own language, and it even has voice to text. So we're really trying a lot of different avenues. But I would say with this, we tell our families the same thing we tell our community partners: let's just stay connected and let's share resources. And we hope you'll come and follow us, come to our website. We are updating it, so please come back in June to see the updates for the summer. And if you have resources you'd like us to share through our channels, we'd love to share it along. Thank you.
Patty, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. That was a lot of wonderful information. What I'm very excited about is how much engagement you were able to have and continue to have with these parents, and in the ways in which are accessible to them and that are comfortable, that are safe, and that builds that trust. So thank you for highlighting that. We actually do have a couple of questions. I want to go to the chat really quickly. Somebody had asked what the sample size was for the survey. You mentioned the survey in the beginning to really kind of find out what was the sample size for that.
In the spring, we did a sample size of 1,400 families throughout the state of California. In fall, late October, it was nearly 1,400. I think it was like 1,370 families.
Awesome, awesome. And then another person asked, what hours worked best to provide the trainings for the parents?
Oh, that's a great question. Usually, I would say it would be after hours, like at 5:30. Each region was a little different. I think at the beginning, the families, we were trying to do webinars during the day, and it's just like, okay, well, kids were trying to connect online. They maybe only had one technology. So it really was a time when a parent can have their own technology in their own time. I had one mom say, I have 5 children. I have one in the bathroom, one in the hallway, one in the kitchen, and we're all trying to do it. And aside from the connectivity, right, it was a little loud, right, in their apartment. So we were really finding those times that kind of, it was a whole time for the family, really.
Love that, love that. Thank you so much. I want to, from all of the information that you were able to gather from your communication with parents, what are some of the things that you're hearing about their specific needs around summer? What are parents saying about summer?
There's a lot of, I think, well, families are looking for definitions also. Is it extended learning? Is it a summer? What does that mean? There's questions of, is it safe? A lot of information, and as we're working with our school districts and our partners to help deliver the information. It's easy to put it on a website, and it's efficient. Let's say it's easy. We're all really busy. We're sending out emails. They're on school portals. They're on website. The information doesn't seem to be trickling down in terms of what's happening. So there's a lot of questions. So I think that is just the unknown and a little bit of the fear. We have some communities that still haven't been vaccinated, and that's very much connected to this reopening. So I think approaching it from that trauma-informed lens.
Absolutely.
Of yes, we have summer school, now let's talk about that holistic support so we can provide those enhanced learning opportunities for our families. And really, what's the benefit? I would say too, I would encourage us all to look at, as we're sharing with our families, here's the benefit of why this will help out as students go back to the classroom, not just for students, for the school, and for families.
Yeah, you know what, Patty, you were reading my mind, because that was a great segue into the next question. We have a communications expert right here on the line. So I was going to ask, sometimes summer has a negative connotation, right? Especially for like the older youth, thinking just about credit recovery or some type of punitive aspect of it. So for our districts and community partners who may be listening today, you already started into that answer around like, what are the benefits of it? What other strategies would you suggest to message summer, and how to message summer to help individuals maybe not think it's just babysitting or some type of, just credit recovery punitive aspect of it?
I encourage us all to partner. I think working for our schools to partner with their local community-based organizations. Maybe it's a faith-based community organization. It's that trust. It's that trust, and it's coming from different ways. So I wouldn't say that our parents not necessarily aren't trusting schools, but as that word of mouth is so important, and as they're hearing it, from their pastor, or they're hearing it from, their contact at, and I'm going to say the YMCA, because I know, those organizations, those community members that they trust them, they heard, and they could say, you know what, our school is providing this. It's going to be so great for our children. I know also many of our school partners are saying, we're going to create activities, right? It's about getting the kids out, and it's about doing this. So that idea that they're not going to be thrown into, I don't know, back in the day, I'm thinking 80s, right? The summer was like, oh no, you went to the summer and they threw you in a room, right? And you sat at the desk.
Right.
So they have those visions.
Right.
If they're my age, they have those visions, and they're thinking, well, our kids have been indoors this whole time. So I think really visualizing that for them and giving them that story, and then working with trusted partners in the community also to deliver that message.
I think that's wonderful. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I know for many of us of the parent generation, that is our, idea of what summer school is. And so it is obviously for those of us in out of school time and in these school community-based organizations, like, we know it is so much more, and there are so many benefits for that. So thank you for that. And somebody in the chat said, thank you for the visuals. Like, I love that. And just to close out, is there anything else any advice that you would give to any of our participants today in regards to just how best, what is one key component, if you could summarize it, for parent engagement? What's the foundation for that, for great parent engagement? What would you say?
I would say for a communication strategy to work, because all the tools are out there, that one-on-one, that two-way communication in a family's home language, that's culturally responsive, and in a way that parents can utilize it. And let's not forget, a phone is still a long way to pick the phone. It does take time, but I think that really creates a really strong foundation that the rest of your communications will become even stronger, because they've had that contact with you as well.
I love that, Patty. Thank you for saying that. The text generation and the message generation, right? It sometimes overshadows that, like, human connection where we can just pick up the phone and call. So thank you. Thank you so much, Patty. And again, if you have any other questions, please continue to put those in the chat, and we'll be able to provide some additional resources. Have a wonderful day.
So much.
Yes.
Thank you.
We want to thank Patty, and we also have two other amazing panelists that I'm going to introduce now. So I want to first introduce Brenda McLaughlin. Brenda leads SCRI as the managing partner and serves as Chief Impact Officer for Bell Excel. She is a longtime visionary in the field of out-of-school time and youth development. Brenda oversees research and evaluation and develops solutions to elevate the quality and impact of educational experiences nationally. Prior to joining Bell Excel, Brenda founded and led the Learning Agenda, a consultancy dedicated to building knowledge and capacity in the nonprofit, philanthropic, and education sectors. She also serves as Vice President at the National Summer Learning Association. Brenda holds a master's in public policy from the Johns Hopkins University and a BA in Spanish and Latin American Studies from the University of Pittsburgh. So we're going to welcome Brenda. Right before I welcome Brenda, I want to introduce our third panelist, who is Ronnie Stone. Ronnie is the president and CEO of the Southeast Ventura County YMCA. He has spent almost 25 years, there's that number again, of professional service within the YMCA organization. He has served as the president CEO for the last 6 years, where he oversees a $10 million operation, which includes 3 branches: Simi Valley Family YMCA, Conejo Valley YMCA, and the Yarrow Family YMCA. Prior to his role, he served as the Triunfo Y executive director, and he oversaw a $1.7 million operation, which includes childcare, day camp, resident camp, youth sports, aquatics programs, teen programs, and family programs. These are some busy folks, and I want to welcome them here. So Brenda and Ronnie, welcome. Thank you for being on today.
Thank you so much for having us, Monroe. You've been doing an excellent job of keeping things moving, and we are delighted to be here. If you could go to the next slide, Alexis. The introduction that you gave was great. I am representing Bell Excel, which is a national nonprofit with 30 years of experience in summer after-school youth development and education. And I also serve as managing partner of the Sperling Center for Research and Innovation, which is a part of Bell Excel. We work with programs nationally to implement summer and after school. We focus on the whole child, so not only supporting kids academically, but also socially and emotionally, physically, really thinking about all of the needs of a young person. And I am delighted to have one of our excellent partners with us today, Ronnie Stone. And as you just heard, Ronnie is the president and CEO of the Southeast Ventura County YMCA. We started partnering with the Southeast Ventura Y in 2018, and we started with a smaller number of young people. But each year, Ronnie and his team have been able to grow the program and expand it, and they're serving about 200 scholars this summer. What you see on the screen right now is actually an example of an impact report that we collaborate with our partners to pull together, and they have just had amazing results with their young people and their families. And I know Ronnie has a lot of lessons learned and insights to share with reaching out and engaging families. So I'm going to pass it to Ronnie first, and then I'll come back in with a couple tips from partners nationally as well. Ronnie?
Thanks, Brenda. Welcome, everybody. I'm just going to share a little bit briefly about our experience, and we'll kind of leave it up for a lot of questions. But I kind of wanted to just share a little bit about our program. As Brenda mentioned, this is since 2018. The particular program and area of service that we chose was the underserved population, the falling behind shadow populations, as we've seen. And we basically work directly with and partner with our school districts. And the main purpose is these are students that are falling behind, that are, clearly every year short when they're in the school districts and in their regular classrooms. So we built this program along with Bell and their curriculum to really enhance what the kids are getting in school, and then taking it forward after the summer months. So it was mentioned in the previous presentation that you have to figure out a way to make summer school fun, because these kids and families hear the word summer school and obviously they're not interested, as who would be, right? Let's get out and play. What we've created is a really unique program where they are learning, and actually we've seen studies and now the evidence based on our surveys and results of testing. These kids are actually gaining 2 to 4 months of educational growth in a 5-week summer program. So a lot of this really comes into how we deliver the program, and most of it and the keys to our success have been partnering with the school districts and the staff, and really building that relationship so we can find the proper teachers, office manager, and just school personnel overall. And again, that kind of comes with all of our programs that we've run, after school programs, this particular model from Bell Excel. But as we all know, the program is going to go and your partnerships are going to go, and everything has to work together to really make a successful program work. So we're excited about it. We have found that, how do we attract the students, and how do we find the right people to fit in the program? And again, working with the principals and the school districts to really find the right people to be in the program. And I say that because this is a particular program where you need to be dedicated and you need to be there for the whole 5 weeks to make this program really work. So part of it is, interviewing and working with the families to find out, are you going to be around? Can you dedicate every day for the next 5 weeks to this program? And one of the things that we found, which is most exciting, was these kids come to you in day 1 or 2, and they're very, very unsure of what's going on. Trust is earned with these people. And it's interesting because as we start to really work with them, we realize early on that they spend a lot of time with their family and at home, and that's basically it. So when they go out into public and find these new programs, they really need to see what's going on and trust you. And one of the things that's been so exciting for us, just quickly, is we watch these kids after week 1, and quickly we establish relationships with both, and it's critical, with both family and student. And what's amazing is at the end of this program, and again, it's only 5 weeks, these kids are wanting to become teachers, doctors, principals, and the first couple of days of class, they won't even talk to you. So the program itself and the model is unbelievably successful. The education, as I mentioned earlier, it's proven. These kids will gain academic growth, both in reading and math. So it's truly an amazing program. The downside of it is you need to recruit early, as you see on the slide. We're way out in a timeline where we're almost year-round recruiting for this, but you can see some of the stuff on the slide. I'm not going to read it all to you, but we start to encourage them to use second quarter testing to kind of find the right students to nominate. You do want to make sure you have the students that are falling behind and really fit the right criteria to be in the program. Both, again, finding them to fit the criteria and be able to commit to the full program. It's difficult for a lot of people to stick around for 5 weeks. Some do have things to do and they can't, or the transportation's an issue. So we've found that we have found schools and picked schools located in an area that they can easily access. We have found that they are much more apt to go to their own school. Again, it's that comfort zone. So I think really working with the families and trying to meet them where they are enhances our program and the quality and the outcomes of the program. So I'm going to stop, I think, there, Brenda, and kind of open it back up to you. And I'm here for questions. So as we kind of move through this, we'll see what kind of time we have. Is that all right?
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Ronnie. So if you would move to the next slide, Alexis, just a couple more tips that we'll share from our perspective as a national technical assistance provider. And some of these tips will be very relevant for you right now. Others, might be in your head for next summer, as Ronnie was just sharing that timeline of recruiting early. You may be past the recruitment phase now. You may be toward the how do I get people to show up and keep showing up on day 1. And so one of the things that I wanted to highlight is just around consistency and being very, very consistent in how you reach out to families and the cadence with which you reach out to families. And so much of what Patty said really resonated with me about trust. Building trust and building relationships is absolutely critical. And there are some people that families might naturally trust sooner than others because perhaps they have a pre-existing relationship. So with some of our partners, principals, teachers, guidance counselors, family liaisons, people who already have an ongoing relationship with families are often the best messengers to reach out and invite them to the summer program, to remind them about the first day, to build excitement about what's ahead. I actually have some partners this summer that created some videos previewing field trips they might take, whether those field trips are on-site or virtual, previewing activities they would be involved in, hearing a personal message from a teacher, and they're texting those videos out to families, sharing those videos on social media so that people can really start to get excited about what they can expect this summer. This has been, a year like no other. And even just having the opportunity to build relationships again, to engage with people, whether virtually or in person, is an exciting thing for a lot of kids. And so our recommendation is always make sure that you are at least communicating with kids and families 3 times leading up to the summer program. So you need to confirm enrollment. You need to confirm key details with families and kids, like transportation, where to show up on day 1. You need to build some excitement about here's what you might expect. And then immediately the day before the program, make sure you're also reaching out and confirming, tomorrow's the big day. We can't wait to see you. And then our recommendation is to make sure that at least weekly, families are hearing from a staff member at the program about what's going on that week, and personal contact is the best way. Make it a phone call, follow it up with a text. And what both Ronnie and Patty was saying about outreach to families is the same with our experience. Think about the ways that your families are used to getting messages from programs or from schools and stick to those ways, right? So like, I know that my school with my kids, I will get an email, I will get a text alerting me to the email, and I will get a voicemail, and they all come at the same time. And that's really comforting to me because I know that those are the things that are going to happen when I'm getting a message from the school. So think about those natural ways that you're already connecting with families. Are they part of your social media community? And use those avenues. Importantly, share good news. Call to say, oh, we were so excited. We saw your son playing tennis today, and he said it was the first time he ever did that. And we just love to see his smile. Great. That's enough to make a connection and to start building trust. And so the other point that I wanted to make, and then I will pause and we'll answer any questions you have, is focusing on day 1, week 1, like how are you going to get your kids to show up and keep showing up? Is super important. And so we've actually developed a checklist, which I'll show you in a minute, that has a number of different items that maybe you've thought of, maybe you haven't thought of, to make sure that it feels seamless from the moment the young person arrives at the site or the family drops the young person off at the site, all the way through pickup. And so this next slide, Alexis, asks a question, and I want to pause for everyone to think about this for a minute. So we've all been in the situation where either we've attended a new program for the first time, or our children have attended a new program for the first time. What are some of the things that a program could do to exceed your expectations on day 1? I'd love to see some of your responses in the chat. What types of communications or greetings or activities would really keep you coming back for more? So I'm hoping to see a couple ideas here. And I'll pause just for a minute as you're getting your ideas in there. Kids being energized, again, reiterating, getting that good news. Giveaways. Making sure that things are efficient and running on time. Absolutely. As these responses are coming in, a familiar face, I'll share, we did this activity with a partnering district that we work with. And some of the things they shared were upbeat music upon like entering the building, friendly competitions, knowing where I'm going, having signs kind of directing me places. If I'm new to the facility or the school, getting a tour of the building so I know my way around. If I'm a family, having a staff member greet me, perhaps greet me in my native language. And so there are a lot of things that you can plan for on day 1, week 1, that are really going to make your young person and your family feel more comfortable. And so if you go to the next slide, this is just a visual of the checklist, and we'll put the link to the checklist in the chat. But there are some things here that may seem like no-brainers if you've done this before, or they may be things that you haven't thought of, like which of your staff are actually going to greet the young person and their families at arrival and dismissal? Have you assigned them to do the greeting? Have you given them any ideas about how to make quick connections? Will you have music or any type of activity that is going to build culture initially when a young person and their family comes into your program? What about having a waiting area for kids who show up but maybe aren't enrolled? That's going to happen, right? There's going to be a young person who shows up on day one and they're not enrolled yet. They haven't been assigned to a group. Who's going to be in that waiting area with that young person and their family member, making them feel comfortable, making sure that there's a process to get them enrolled and assigned to a group, or to, if you're at capacity, or to figure out, what opportunities there are to stay connected. Do you have any types of t-shirts or things that you can have staff wear so that they're easily identifiable? Do you have a process for staff to call folks who are absent and invite them back to the program? And do you have a script for what to say? Do you have a process for enrolling waitlisted youth in your program? And so those are just some of the day one, week one checklist items. But hopefully there are things that will really help make your operations seamless, as well as building your culture and climate. And so we'll wrap up there. On the last slide, these are just some additional resources that you likely want to check out. There is a really great, there was one more slide there, Alexis. There's a really great resource that was put out by the Wallace Foundation and developed by Crosby Marketing and Communications. It's a summer marketing recruitment guide. There we go. And so we'll send the links to these in follow-up as well. And you'll see that in that guide, there's these 8 keys to success. It really reiterates all of the things that the speakers have shared today about how to engage families. The day one, week one checklist is available. We also wrote a research brief on family engagement and remote learning, with some tips on what we learned from engaging with our families remotely last year. And then the final resource here, we did create a family resource portal last year with just some tips and resources for families on how to create learning environments for their young people at home and how to support their young people in learning, particularly when there are a lot of stressors happening in daily life. And so we encourage you to go to the family resource portal and see if there's anything on there that you want to share with your families as well. There's a few things that are password protected, and that's related to particular Bell Excel curriculum, but there's a lot on there that's also free. So thank you.
Brenda and Ronnie, I want to thank you. I have to say this, first of all, in both of your presentations, you all just took me back to day one of summer programming. It is one of the most exhilarating experiences. And as a former administrator of out of school time programs, I got the opportunity to go to multiple sites on that first day, and to kind of, Ronnie, to your point, to kind of see the young people go from timid and shy to, when you would come back towards the end of the day, to just excited and not even wanting to go home, at times, or looking forward to the next day. I mean, it just brought me back. And then, and also, Brenda, I just wanted to underscore that point about how good news goes a long way. And especially for some of our historically disengaged parents, to get that phone call from a program person saying, like, your child did, wonderful today, or something like that, it just really goes a long way in rebuilding that trust. So I had to say that you had me over here smiling, both of you, and really thinking about those programs. Brenda, you were talking about the cadence, and you were talking about the consistency in the communication. When we're thinking about our CBOs and our LEAs, what infrastructure is needed for strong communication and enrollment?
It's a really great question. There are a lot of different pieces that need to come together seamlessly in order to make sure that young person and their families show up. The first is an easy registration and enrollment system, right? Making it as easy as possible for families to access and enroll their child. It's not a typical process to enroll a young person each year, right? I mean, you enroll kids in kindergarten and then you kind of forget until maybe it's middle school again and high school again. So just making it really, really easy to register. Making sure that you're using existing staff members who might have relationships with families already, like your family liaisons, your teachers, your principals, your staff from your CBOs if they're attending there. A good attendance system so that if a young person isn't showing up, that that they're not there, that you're making the phone call to their family immediately, that you're inviting them back. Research has also shown that attendance policies actually promote better attendance. And so making sure that you have an attendance policy for the summer, that you communicate that to your families, and that you can maintain a wait list and invite others to fill your spots if a young person, doesn't show up on day one, or, or if they stop showing up. One thing I didn't mention was around holidays. Holidays can often interfere with attendance, and particularly in voluntary summer programs, it's typical to see a drop off in attendance over time. But that July 4th holiday is often deadly for summer programs.
Yes.
So really think about those incentives that you might be able to provide to keep your kids and families coming back, particularly after things like holidays.
I like that you mentioned the attendance policy, because I know the way in which it was framed, not to be punitive, but it was actually something that underscored the relevance of regular attendance and how important it is for your child to really get the full impact of the program is if they're here. And not only that, we actually want to see your children here. And so it's just kind of really letting those parents know how important it is for them to be there every single day. Hey, Ronnie, I had a question in regards to what feedback and input tools are implemented into the program for parents to let you know real time, how things are going. What are some of those things that you all have in place?
We actually communicate regularly with the parents. It is easy for us when they're picking up their children. So they get a lot of feedback immediately from the teachers on staff during the program when they pick up the children. It is really incredible how, and I didn't mention this earlier, but we have had some families get so close to us because of the relationships that were built that they now are our presenters at events like galas and programs like that, where they actually are on stage. And again, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. These parents are very similar to their kids, where they're very shy. They don't want to be out in public yet. Now these people are so excited about the program and the opportunity that they're out, being our spokespeople to really promote and enhance our program. So I think it's really important to face-to-face and truly get to know these people as we build the relationships in person.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I love seeing our parents also celebrate it, right? As we celebrate their children, but to be able to celebrate their families, I think that's wonderful. If either of you have any, what agreements and orientations does the YMCA do for their families? What are some of those standard kind of agreements and orientations for summer programs?
We do ask that you commit to the full 5 weeks of summer. So it's kind of the understanding and agreement as part of the acceptance in the program. We also do a couple of parent orientation and family orientations leading up to it. So we found like a Saturday or as mentioned earlier, later in the evenings. But really it's getting them to understand that this is not just education. Your child's going to have a lot of fun. And you mentioned it earlier that ultimately, by the time we get to day 3 or 4, they're crying when they go home because they know what they just got today is far better than what they're going to do at home, even if they are sitting in front of a TV, which they used to love. But that's really it, is getting them to sign up and understand it is a 5-week commitment. But once you get them, it's easy to hold them because it's truly a life-changing experience for these families.
Yeah, summer is a magical time. I'm literally just sitting here kind of reminiscing even on my childhood and the various programs that I was able to be involved in, and how important it was that my mother knew I was someplace safe and that I was going to be learning, and of course that I was having a good time. So I just really thank all of our program providers, all of our individuals that really make these opportunities possible for our young people to participate, and most importantly, to really build that trust with our parents and our communities that their children are being taken care of, their children are cared for and loved, and we want the best for them. So again, thank you so much. I don't see any other questions in the chat. So I know, Brenda, you have provided several resources, and in that chat, folks, if you're there, you can, make sure you click on those resources, download those resources, and please utilize them. I know summer is already here, it's upon us, but I know that especially that quick tip checklist that Brenda provided, I'm sure can be a huge asset and resource to anyone along the way of your planning process. So please do take advantage of that. I want to thank Brenda. I want to thank Ronnie. I want to thank Patty, all three of you for being here and for sharing your expertise with us today and your experiences. Thank you all for all of the participation. Before we end today, I just want to share a few things, a couple of notes. We would very much appreciate that everyone please fill out a brief survey. It's going to be in the chat there for you. So please, please, please take a moment to fill out that survey. All you got to do is just click on the link. Second, the Partnership for Children and Youth has launched a Summer Technical Assistance Hub. I'm going to say that again. We have launched a Summer Technical Assistant Hub, which can be accessed through our website. And this is here to provide districts and their community partners with no cost, yes, free, no cost, individualized coaching and support to help implement programming this summer. So once again, because we know the truncated timeline and some of the unique demands of coming back from distance learning after over a year, districts and community partners are in need of supports. And here's a great resource and opportunity. So please visit our website to make sure that you can take advantage of that. We will be sending a recording of this session and all the resources and slides to everyone who registered for the webinar, and we'll post it to the website and social media. And as I mentioned in the opening, if this is your first time, please make sure that you go back to that website and you look at some of the other webinars in this series. We've had some great topics and some phenomenal presenters as we have here today. Lastly, we want to thank the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence for supporting us and offering these webinar series. Alexis, thank you for your support here today. We're thrilled to be part of the solution in providing useful information and connection across our fields. So as you complete the survey, I want to say thank you again. It has been my pleasure to be your moderator. Once again, my name is Monroe Howard, and we hope to see you next time. And please, please, please have a wonderful summer. Stay safe out there, okay? And everyone, have a great day.